Well, greetings again. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt with the American Orthodontic Society, and I want to talk a little bit more about straight wires, what we do. It was straight wire, and I just added a lot of innovative ideas to straight wire, and I call that straight wires. You can just do the most complicated orthodontics you want to, and you can make any movement of any teeth on any body, and I'll stand behind that. Now, I want to talk a little bit about crossbites, and we discussed that some in some other deals. What causes many crossbites? There may be several other reasons, but the main reason for crossbites is mouth breathing. That's why we have so many crossbites. The vast majority of them are caused because of functional problems, and mouth breathing is one of the main things that causes this. One of our best instructors a few years back didn't know why he was seeing so many crossbites. And I said, well, you think about it for a while, and then you tell me. And so another week or two, I asked him, did he have some idea? And he gave me some reasons he thought was crossbites. And he just overlooked the simple, easy reason for it, and that is mouth breathing. And so I wanted to cover that today. Here's a child that has a crossbite, and let's show what it helps in. Neat little kid, real nice. And when he opens his mouth, you can see crossbites beginning to form. And it doesn't bother anything. The profile and everything else is just ideal on him. And yet he has a crossbite that is developing in there. So I'm going to show, let me erase that line. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, I can take somebody's models and just look at them. Now, if you look at the model, the teeth on the right side over here are cusp to cusp. In other words, they're meeting like this, and the lower ones are coming up here and here, and that's uncomfortable. On the other side of the mouth, they're in a crossbite. The upper teeth were coming down like this, and the lower tooth is coming up, fitting under here, and you tend to bite your cheek with this side over here. And then doing that, and you also bite with the side over on the other side. Now you look at the teeth, they're sticking out up here. So he's a tongue thruster. He's breathing through his mouth, and if you breathe through your mouth, there's no way you're going to keep the tongue out from pushing these teeth more than it will the upper. So the upper doesn't develop properly, and it literally gets worse as it goes along. So when you see these teeth coming out, the tongue is pushing forward like that. And now that same person, when they go to swallow, they don't swallow properly, and that they won't. If you're a tongue thruster, I can bite my teeth together I can swallow without biting my teeth together. Let me put it that way. But I'll bet you that there's hardly anybody out there that can't swallow and not bite your teeth together if you're a grown person. Because every time you swallow, you bite your teeth down with a certain amount of force, and that determines the vertical height between the nose and the chin down here. If you're swallowing wrong and you don't bite your teeth together, these teeth just move down and these move up, and this distance from the chin to the nose increases, and you get this stupid look. You can kind of look here. The longer you make that, the worse it looks in there. So these are things that happen simply because a person is breathing wrong, swallowing wrong. Now, I told you about when I was in Nigeria for about 3 years, going to this school, and everybody at that school had teeth. I didn't need any orthodontics at all, but all these children nursed till they were about 2.5 years old, and they nursed. You cannot breathe through your mouth and nurse. That's just simple fact. And so these children had no bottles or anything to do that. They had to nurse. And so they nursed for about 2.5 years. If they don't get the protein, if they don't do that, they die of kwashiorkor, which is, some of it gets big as a watermelon. And if the mother has a child, a second child, say a year after she has a first child, she feeds the baby and doesn't feed the older child. And the older child, they call it, the younger kills the older. And that is a fact. If you didn't get any protein to them. Now here in America, we have all kind of protein and everything else to give to people, so we don't have that problem. But let's get back to the crossbite deal. Now you can look at a model when the upper teeth are fitting inside the lower teeth, as this is over here, or if they're just cusp to cusp like this, they're mouth breathers, and the tongue is down in this part, and they keep the mouth open and they breathe through. And my little granddaughter is coming along, and I looked at her the other day, and she's developing a crossbite, and she is also a tongue thruster coming out, and kids will just get that way. Now let's go further into this and look at from one side. The left side of the mouth now, these are really in a crossbite. I mean, they're completely over, and the jaw shifts to one side or the other, and the condyles change their shape so they can work, so we can chew on one side and chew on the other side, and bite your front teeth together. Your back teeth don't hit back here, and that is the way it ought to be. But this changes the fact right here. Now, so in some of the younger people, what we do, we see somebody with a maxilla that hasn't deformed, hasn't developed like it should, and then the tongue is down in the bottom part of the mouth, and they're breathing that way. It spreads the lower jaw out, and you think the tongue won't move the teeth. It'll move them all over the place. You just can't imagine. You can do it with an adult. They'll move the tongue or move the teeth out. Anybody will do that. Now, one of these sides, I think this one is less. See, this one is edge to edge, I believe, and this one was complete crossbite right there. Now you can see the lower arch is quite wide, and it fit over the upper arch. So here we look at it again in the mouth. We'll go to the mouth. This is the right side of the mouth, and this is a complete, just a cross bite. Completely, it's not cusp to cusp, but these are teeth are fitting in here, and that usually shifts the jaw over. So the midline you see coming down here, then it jumps over here. Now, and so this side is staying, going out, and this is going in more than it should. And so you have to correct all this. Now on this young man, we did it with a palatal separator. Now if a separator fits good, now in this view right here, actually both of them are going in over here on that view of the So the model was, we were showing it wrong. All right, we took this mouth and we put a palatal separator, a deal fits like this, and goes that way and comes over, goes up over these teeth like that. You can put them in, and when they push these teeth, you can push this thing back further, and it'll run back on these teeth and catch on this. And we go on a palatal separator, it just separates this way. And you'll gain some space in here. You pull those teeth together, that'll move the ends, something like that. Now, that's the way we corrected a young person. Now you can come in on an adult and use those big daddy arch wires and pull that out, but then you have to have the rectangular wire carrying the root out with the teeth. A palatal separator fits these teeth real firm, and as you push the crown out, the root goes out too, because it's locked in there, cemented in really properly. Now these palatal separators, they just have a bar in there, they don't work. They'll do one tooth they're banded on, it'll go out, the others don't. And they'll just look that way. Now, look at the difference in, see the arch, the lower arch, how wide it is right here. See, I spread out like that. And we're going to go back and look at the upper arch. Look, you see the difference. You could just take a, I could look at somebody almost across the room, and if they talk much and I could see their teeth, I could tell you if they're doing something wrong in there. You learn to do that later, but the upper arch is too narrow, see, and the lower arch fits around over it. So we went into him and we put a palatal separator in. This is after we have supposedly finished. We got these teeth over. These teeth right here, I think, are fixing to come out right there, but we corrected that. Let me show the palatal separator here in a minute. So this was 03. Now, looking at it from the inside, these teeth are spread out all over this. And now they can tell that the lower teeth are about past out here, and the cusp of the upper teeth are coming down in the groove of the lower teeth in the wrong way. This both sides are really out. This one's not quite as far as this one over here. And this causes crowding of the upper teeth. You see this cuspid doesn't have room enough. If these teeth were out where they ought to be, there'd be more room for that cuspid to come in. So we put a palatal separator in here and moved the upper teeth out on this young man. And that's the way to fix it. And so if you're trying to stop a tongue thrust, straighten up the airway first. The child can't breathe through the nose. They gotta breathe somewhere, and so don't try to change the breathing thing till you get the cause of it taken care of. And you widen it out, and he can breathe through the nose. Then you might can break the tongue thrust deal and get him to breathing through his nose properly. And that makes a tremendous difference in the way this person grows up and the lifestyle he has. Now we took that, we put a palatal separator, and we banded these teeth like this, and we pushed that apart. Now we have two teeth, the permanent and the deciduous teeth are banded right here, and that if you push the deciduous tooth out, the developing tooth will come under. We put these in here to correct the tongue thrust. So we're going to correct the airway. Now we'll correct the tongue thrust, and we'll get the child swallowing correctly and he'll grow up with a relatively normal mouth. Now this should be taught to everybody. They should teach this to every dentist. Whether you work on children or not, you ought to know what can be done. And the very idea that you will not let they don't teach in pediatric postgraduate work, they don't teach of orthodontics. And that is the dumbest thing I can think of in here, that the pediatric dentists aren't taught to do orthodontics. You should put this in or realize what it is here to start with. Don't wait till the child is 12 or 13 years old to do something. It's already so far along. You've got a crowded problem up here. You ought to go in and spread this out while they're still quite young and get room enough their teeth can come in correctly. And this is so dumb that pediatric specialists are not taught to do these. There's about 20 or more steps of things that need to be done. On some cases, one just a little bit. You don't send them to the orthodontist to do it. Some people hire orthodontists to work with 2 or 3 pedodontists to do that, but they don't even teach the people training in orthodontics how to come in here and do all this stuff. Sort of somebody could work back and forth with an orthodontist, but you got to run this child in when he needs a little orthodontics done, and it doesn't need much. The pediatric guy working with him ought to know how to do this right here. This is ridiculous. They ought to teach them that way. Now here we widen that thing out, and we got more room, and they're coming through. We're going to squeeze these 3 teeth here into this gap in here. And now, if you have to, we can slice some of these teeth and get them in there good, and bring this young man's teeth in his mouth while he's young. He'll never know about the crossbite and the problem he'd go through if he waited till he was 12 or 13 or 14 years old before you started. And a lot of them don't correct the thing properly after he gets older. So you go through life with this problem. And every dentist should be shown how to do it. If you want to do it and you learn how to do it, then go ahead and do it. Like any kind of old surgery or anything other, but you can take out teeth if you learn how to do it good, but you don't do an orthodontic triple jaw surgery. That's something the old surgeon would have to do, but we've learned how to do that by orthodontics. All right, I'm going to go through here, and this is the end of it, but I hope you'll tune in to what we're saying. We've got enough videos, and I cover every fact, and I can move teeth any way you can think of it, every way I can think of it. If you've got something I can't move with this straight wise orthodontics, then let me know and I'll figure out a way to do it. But every movement of the teeth, I can do it with this type of thing that we just added to straight wire, and I called it straight wise, and you can do it. But it's better to use an 018 slot than it is to use an 022. The wires are too big, and there you can't put your omegas and things like that in there. So I'm going to hush up, and I hope you'll understand crossbites are caused in the nearly all of them from mouth breathing. And mouth breathing causes tongue thrusting and everything else, and causes you to swallow improperly and not bite your teeth together when you swallow. Now this is where a baby doesn't bite to swallow. They swallow the wrong way. This infantile swallow pattern is just something that protects the mother. He doesn't bite the breast. He just kind of swallows without biting. I guess if he did, the mother would jerk him off there. But this is something that nature takes care of here. So I'm going to hush, and we'll close out with this. But I hope you'll understand crossbites and tongue thrusts. Don't try to correct the tongue thrust or the crossbite until the crossbite correcting is what you're going to open up the airway to do. So thank you for watching, and I'm going to sign out here and say I hope you watch some of our other deals. Thank you now, and I'll close out.